Zero to Bonnie.
Hello.
It was cold today.
Yeah,
Ay, ay, ay. You see, in London, it's 95 degrees. They're going crazy.
in London.
Yeah.
Wow.
All over England, they're going nuts.
They must be all lying in the garden like this.
Yeah, and red is a beet.
Yeah.
Either white or red, no in between.
When I lived in England, when it was 72, you couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
So
they went nuts.
can you imagine 97? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, very hot.
But Trump says there's no climate change.
Okay,
Only if he wants it.
we're on Chavav
Yeah.
26.
He controls everything.
Yeah.
So we're talking about temed, which is like mead, which is water soaked in grape juice, and the machlokas is b'shichmitz machlokas. Both are talking about where it already fermented, and where the volume is exactly like the original water, even though it's fermented. The rabbis consider it water, and Rabbi Yehuda considers it yain. Umasis and Rabbi Yehuda, v'chein Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, k'sheichim it's machlokas. Baruch Rabbi Ravavua, temet shalochu b'kesef meiser. You have temet that is not fermented yet, and someone purchases it with kesef meiser. But after time, basof it's then fermented. This, remember, you came from Tel Aviv with Meiser Sheni money, right? You had $1,000 of wheat. You transferred the kedusha to $1,200. Now you brought the $1,200 to Yerushalayim. When you buy something, the kedusha now is transferred to the wine, and the money is now Chullin. My time, because since it became fermented, it was clearly not water. There was enough fruit to become fermented in order to declare it like fruit. But the Gemara says "Elamastis diktani hichmitz in lo hichmitz lo," but our Mishnah seems to suggest that if it was fermented, then yes, you could use Sheni money. If it's not, well, not. Dilma ishavke avamachmas. If you give it some time, maybe over time it'll ferment. On Rava, what happens was they would pour a little of it into a cup, and they'd let the cup sit. And over a while, they would watch it. If it never ferments, then the kedusha never is chal. Rava Omar. Rava learns our Mishnah differently. Hamani Rav Yechon Nuri. This is a Mishnah in Mikvos. Gimel Lugan Mayim Chaser Kurtiv. Now, if you have a mikvah that does not have 40 saw, let's say it has 39 saw, and you put in 3 lug carried water, so that will disqualify the mikvah. Now, if it's 3 lug minus a little bit, shenafal asochel kurtiv yain, and some wine Kurtiv of Yain made the shear to give. If it's considered water, it would disqualify the mikveh. If it's not considered water, then it's okay. Umare and kimare. Now the color of this mixture of 3 lug with some wine looks like wine. V'naflu mikveh, which didn't have 40 saw. So the Tanakhama says lo paslua. It's treated as wine. It has the appearance of wine, and even though it's carried, it's not considered carried water. Right. Now, if the case was gimel lugin ma'im chaser kurtuv shenafal l'sechin kurtuv chalav, you have 2.99 lug, and then a little bit of milk fell into it. Umarein kemare mayim, and it looks like water. Benafal mikvah, lo paslu. It also doesn't disqualify because it doesn't have 3 full lug of mayim. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, no. He disagrees. Hakol hoylech achar amara. It depends what this 3 lug looks like. If the 3 look like wine, it's wine and not water. If it looks like water, it's water. Lavam Rav Yochanan basar chazusa is lina. We go after the way it looks. Hachanami zil basar chazusa. In our Mishnah, it looks like temed. Looks like appearance. Looks like water. The time of and its taste. The time of chazusa the high mayaninu. Let us say that according to this Mishnah is a Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that says it's like water. Upligid Rabbi Lazar. And this understanding of the Mishnah would be different than Rabbi Lazar. Dar Rabbi Lazar, if you have temed, you must give trumas meisos from the temed itself, not from somewhere else. Ele im kein hichmitz. First, you don't mafresh anything unless it ferments. And ksaver beloyach it's machloikas. So he holds that even without fermentation, there is a machloikas. Whether or not the Chachamim will hold that it's water and there's no meiser, Rav Yehuda says it's considered like wine. Ad kam l'mchayv Rav Yehuda ela minei ubei. You have to give the trumas meisers from that temet itself. Aval me'al malo, but let's say from you have wine somewhere else, you couldn't be mafresh that. You're gonna take stuff that really is mechayiv trumas meisers on something that is potter, and vice versa, min potter al chiyuv. We have another din regarding water. Hatemed ad shelo yichmitz mashiko b'mayim. If the temed is not fermented, you could water to water put in contact to a mikveh, and it will mitayr it. But mishichmitz, once it becomes wine, ein mashiko b'mayim. Hashaka with water in a mikveh won't work. The case we're talking about is that you had tahor water that you poured over the grapes, and then late nitmu. Then you could purify through hashaka. Avatmei karlo. But if they were initially tamei, then hashaka doesn't work. Azal Rav Gvia mibei kosil. This was said over in front of Rav Ashi. How come hashaka doesn't work if the water was originally tamei? Tamei water they understood to be physically heavier, so it would be at the bottom of this mixture of temed. The fruit part floats. So when you put this fluid into contact with mikveh, it'll never reach the water. There's like a separation because the fruit part separates between the water and the water. Well, based on that, so who cares that the water started off tahor and then later on became tamei? You have the same reason why the mikveh should not work. Elamabalbali. Rava, who says that it does work, must be because the water and the tema got mixed up. It's not like one is on top of the other, and therefore there's no chatzitza. And hachanami mababali. So hashaka was possible. Okay. Mishnah. We have a din that a father can sell his minor daughter as a amaha ivriya. Then there's a intermediate phase between 12 and 12 and a half where a girl is a nara. And then above 12 and a half, she's a bogeres. So, kol mokum sheyesh shecher, when you can sell a daughter, meaning she's a ketana, ein knas. If she's raped or seduced, the rapist or the seducer doesn't have to pay any money to the father. Kol mokum sheyesh knas. If you rape or seduce a nara, a girl between 12 and 12 and a half, then you have to pay a fine. But in that age period, you're not allowed to sell as an abavriya ein mecher. Amrei Marav, Zudiv Rabbi Meir. Ava chachamim yesh knas b'makom mecher. They disagree. That the chachamim say that if you rape or seduce even a minor girl, the fine has to be paid. Therefore, there is knas when you can sell her. The Tani, Ktan bas yomecha that should tov beit styrus. A ktan is defined as a girl 1 day old until she brings 2 hairs, which is when she's 12. Yesh lo mecher ve'ein la knas. Reb Meir holds you can sell her, but there's no knas if she's raped. Mishitavi beit styrus at sheti boger, from 12 to 12 and a half. Yesh la knas ve'ein la mecher. If she's raped or seduced, there's knas to be paid, 50 shekel. But the father can't sell her anymore. Did Reb Meir? Shai Reb Meir Amar kol makom sheyesh mecher ein knas, v'chol makom sheyesh knas ein mecher. Our Mishnah. However, Chachamim Oimrim, Tanami bas gimel shonav yom echad ad sheti boger, yesh la knas, that a girl from a day old until she's 12 and a half, if she's seduced or raped, the 50 shekel is paid. So knas in mecher lo? So he means there's no mecher? The Chachamim certainly agree that there's mecher, at least up until she's 12. So ema av knas b'mokum mecher. They hold that there's knas even when the father has a right to sell her. Mishnah. Now, a ketana under the age of 12, a father has the right to accept kiddushin on behalf of his minor daughter. That kiddushin is kiddushin midoraisa. And if the daughter wants to get out of that marriage, he needs a full-fledged get. Let's say there's no father, and the mother or the brothers marry her off except kesef kiddushin when she's a minor. At that situation, a minor girl, if she wants to get out of the marriage, she can do miyun. She refuses. I want to walk away. She walks away without a get. Because the kiddushin was omid rabbanon, so this miyun thing works as well. Now, it only works until she's 12. And therefore, kol makom sheyesh mir ein chlitza. You can't be a ketana and do chlitza. Reuven and Shimon, brothers. Reuven dies without children. Shimon is miyabem, Reuven's wife. Now, if she doesn't want to get married to him, she can do chlitza. But you can't do chlitza if you're ketana up until 12. So the age where you can do miyun, you're not allowed to do chlitza. Chomakam sheyesh chlitza ain't miyun. Once you could do chlitza, once you're above the 12 years old, there's no miyun anymore. Amrim Rav, Zuti Reb Meir. Amrim Yesh Miyun b'makom chlitza. There will be situations of miyun even when you can do chlitza. Because they say that even a nara, a girl between 12 and 12 and a half, can do miyun, the Tanya. Ad masai habat me'ma'enes. Until what age can a girl do miyun? Achatavi stay Cyrus de Rameir until 2 hairs, which is the age of 12. Rav Yehuda Omer Achiyibra Shachla Alova. No, until there's more. She has pubic hair basically, which takes till 12 and a half, or maybe some time they would check her. Maybe it's a 12 and 3 months. Maybe it's 12 and 4 months. At that point, she would not be able to do miyun, but she could do miyun up until then, and she could do chlitza after 12. Okay. Now, in Yerushalayim, when Shabbos was about to start, they would blow a shofar to tell you that you have to stop working. Kol makom sheyesh tkiya, ein avdala. So let's say Yontif is Friday, and in Israel there's only one day Yontif, and then Shabbos comes, so they would blow shofar to tell you it's Shabbos, but you don't make Havdalah. And v'chol makom sheyesh Havdalah ein toikin. Now at the end of Shabbos, when you make Havdalah, or at the end of Yontif in the middle of the week, you make Havdalah, but there's no Tkiya. And the Mishnah goes right to the point. Yontif shechalios perev Shabbos. Shavuos is Friday, let's say. Toikin v'lo mavdilin. At the end of the Yontif, as Shabbos comes in, they blew the shofar. But there was no Havdalah. Like, look at us. We didn't make Havdalah. I mean, we had 2 days Yontif. But in Israel, when they had 1 day Yontif Friday, when Friday night comes and Shabbos comes in, you make Kiddush. There's no Havdalah made. Why aren't you making Havdalah for Yontif? This is from this Mishnah. There's no Havdalah made as you go into Shabbos. B'motzei Shabbos mavdilim v'loy toikin. And on Shabbos, at the end of Shabbos, you make Havdalah. You don't blow any shofars. Okay, it says mavdilin. How do you make Havdalah when Yontif, for example, coincides with Shabbos? Hamad ben Kodesh leKodesh. Let's say Yontif is Sunday and Shabbos leaves. So you say Hamad ben Kodesh leKodesh. Like we do that. Many, we say the Havdalah there during Kiddush. Rav Doisa Oimer ben Kodesh Chomer leKodesh Hakal. He has a different lashon. Now, what kind of tekiah is done as Shabbos comes in? Heichi toikeya. Rav Yehuda toikeya Maria metoch kriya. You blow a tekiah and then a trua within the tekiah. And then another tekiah at the end of the trua. Ravasi Amar toikeya umeria b'neshima achas. And trua with one breath. But you pause between the tekiah and the trua. Askin Rav Asi b'hutzel k'shmaitze. And Rav Asi established this as his halacha, where he lived. Meisvei Yom Tov shechalios perev Shabbos. You have Yontif on Friday. Toikin v'lo Marian. It says that you don't do trua. My love lo Marian klal. Maybe that means you don't do trua at all. Lo. Rav Yehuda metartzel tamei, Rav Asi metartzel tamei. Rav Yehuda metartzel tamei, lo Marian b'fnei atzmal mitoch tekiah. The trua comes right out of the tekiah, but you don't do it by itself. Rav Asi metartzel tamei, lo Marian b'shtei neshim etzal b'neshim achas. You don't do a second breath, you do it from one breath. Motzei Shabbos, we make Havdalah. Heichi Omar. What does he say? When Yontif is Sunday, Amr b'chasim osa, at the end of the bracha, v'chenem Rav Nachman b'chasim osa, Rav Shesh b'rei Ravidi Amr av b'chsi chasa. You have to say ben kodesh lekodesh at the beginning, and you have to say Ben Kodesh LaKodesh at the end. But the less Hilchas Kavose. The halacha is not like that. Rav Doisar Ben Kodesh Chomer LaKodesh Hakal. Between a more stringent Kedusha of Shabbos and Kedusha of Yontif. The less Hilchas Kavose. We don't say that. What Havdalah do you say at the end of Yontif? Om Rav Zera Yontif Shechalios B'Emtzer Shabbos. Om Ramadi Ben Kodesh L'Chol. Like we do. Ben Or L'Choshech Ben Yisrael Amin. Ben Yom HaShvil Shesh Ben Maseh. My time is Seder Havdalah Sumoyne. He mentions all the various Havdalahs mentioned in the Torah. Hadalach HaKol Shechtin, Hadalach HaKol Shechtin, Hadalach HaKol Shechtin. Okay. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Tonight, Sorba, 8 o'clock.